How y'all doing today? I'm Shelia Edwards, and I welcome you on back into this Boozin food kitchen where you know you're always welcome. Have you found your peak today? You know I'm going to ask you that. You know what? Sometimes that peak finds you. Sometimes you can just be sitting there deciding you're going to have a day off and the fun will come right on to you. Well, I hope you find your peak today. Now, let's talk about what we're going to be cooking in this kitchen. Today, y'all, my sweet tooth bothered me, so I need to answer to that sweet tooth. Today, we're going to be making this whiskey apple cream cheesecake today, honey, and it is all that. So, without further ado, we're going to get over here on this counter and get this cake together so we can be settling on into this sweet tooth real soon. Meet you over there on the counter. To get started with our cake, I have in this bowl 8 ounces of cream cheese and I have a 1/4 cup of butter here. To this, I'm going to add a 1/2 cup of white sugar. And then what I want to do, well, I like to move my ingredients with my spoon before I put the beater in there. I just don't like anything flying out. Okay, so we got everything softened together in there. Now what I'm going to do is add my egg. Two tablespoons of flour, and this is all purpose. And I'm going to put 2 tablespoons of whiskey. There are a few things we're going to do before we start mixing the batter of the cake. Right here on this cookie sheet, I have already roasted up a cup of pecans here that I chopped kind of small, but not too small, you know. And then this right here is about a little more than a 1/2 cup that I've kind of chopped a little bit larger, but I roasted all of these at once, and I roasted them for about 8 minutes, stirring in between until I smell that fragrant smell coming out. And now they're ready, and I'm going to put these to the side until we're ready for them. Here I have cut up, I've peeled, cored, and chopped up or cut up 3 gala apples, and I put them in a little lemon juice with water to kind of keep them from browning until I'm ready to add them into this recipe. And now we're going to get our pan prepared so we can just put our cake in when we have finished mixing it. So I'm using just a little bit of this Baker's Joy, and we're just going to go around there and around the flute so it releases easily. So now we're going to get our dry ingredients together. In this bowl, I have 3 cups of all-purpose flour. I'm adding 1 cup of white sugar, 1 cup of brown sugar that has been packed down, so it's a packed down 1 cup. Now I'm going to add 5 other ingredients at once. Here I have on this plate, this right here is 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. This is 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 1 teaspoon of nutmeg, and a 1/2 teaspoon of allspice. Get that all in there. So we're just going to leave put these 7 ingredients together, then get ready for the wet ingredients. Now we're ready to add our wet ingredients right in there. I'm gonna put in 3 eggs, but what I'm doing is I'm gonna stir a little between each egg. Eggs are in. Now we're adding 3/4 cups of vegetable oil. This is 3/4 cup of applesauce. I'm going to get these pulled together. And we're not doing this with your mixer, just kind of pulling this together. Now we'll add 2 tablespoons of whiskey. And I'm going to fold in this cup of roasted pecan. Now we'll fold in our 3 cups of apples, gala apples. Let's fold those in. Now we're going to spoon 3/4 of our mixture into this pan. I'm getting a little sloppy with it there, but we'll get it in there. So there's 2/3 of the mixture in this bowl. I think I said 3/4, but I meant 2/3. And now this is the cream cheese mixture that we did at the beginning. We're going to scoop this into the center. Try to keep it centered as you put it in. And try not to touch the sides. So there we have the cream cheese all in there. And I'm going to use just a little butter knife to kind of swirl it down in there. Going all the way around just in a swirl. Now we're going to spoon in the remaining batter on top of the cream cheese. Try your best to cover all of your cream cheese. So there we have the top all covered, the cheese all covered with the remainder of the batter. And now we're going to place this cake into a 450-degree oven, and we're going to let it bake for 1 hour and 15 minutes, and then we'll take it out to cool. Okay, so after 1 hour and 15 minutes of baking, there our cake is, and it's going to sit in this pan and cool for about 15 minutes before we turn it out onto a wire rack to cool for about 2 hours, and then we'll be ready to frost her. So we're getting our frosting together. So what you see in this saucepan is a 1/4 cup of butter melting, and this is a 1/2 cup of packed brown sugar. I'm going to kind of get this going, and what I'm adding to here is 3 tablespoons of milk. I'm going to bring this to a boil. Once it starts to boil, I'm going to let it go for about a minute or so until it's to the right consistency, and I'm gonna be whisking this throughout this process. So that's how it's looking after cooking for a minute and then whisked. We're gonna turn the heat off under the mixture, adding 1 tablespoon of whiskey. Ooh. Okay, I'm gonna stir that a minute. And now I'm ready to add 1 cup of powdered sugar to this. Stir it in slowly. So now we finish incorporating our sugar, and you should have a mixture that looks something like this, and it's going to be at this thin consistency for now, and it's going to just sit at room temperature. So now our apple cream whiskey Bundt cake has cooled, and now we have our frosting here. Now don't worry, if you leave it sitting on the stove for a while, it's going to stiffen. All you have to do is turn your pot back on, let it get warm back up, and it'll turn back to more of this type of consistency. So now we're going to get it put on our cake. So what we're doing here, we got our caramel on, and you have to work pretty quickly to get your pecan on there, because the frosting sets up very quickly. All right, y'all, we back and we got it done. Honey, this whiskey apple cream cheesecake is so ready. But let me say a couple of things to you before I get into eating mine. When you're baking this cake, we bake it at 350 degrees. Once that cake has been baking for almost an hour and you can start smelling it real fragrant, stick your skewer in there and check your cake, because sometimes the calibration of your stove can just be a little off or be a little different based on the temperature outside. A lot of different things can cause the oven to bake faster or to bake slower. So get your wooden skewer, stick it in there. When that skewer comes out dry, take your cake out, even if it's short of an hour and 15 minutes. Because I took my cake out today. I took it out at an hour and 5 minutes of baking, because if I had left it in there for the hour 15, it would have been a dry cake, and this one is not intended for that. Also, when you're making your frosting, you might want to wait and make your frosting once the cake has cooled for a couple of hours, so your frosting is more pourable over that cake and it won't crack once it gets cold. So what I did, I made my frostings, I'm this busybody, I made my frosting while the cake was baking, so my frosting got stiff, but then I know how to put a little bit of milk in there and stir it a little bit, warm that pot up and stir it a little bit to get it back pourable. So I poured it over my cake and everything worked out just fine. So hold off with your frosting, or if you make it while the cake is baking, you know it's going to get hard, soften it up with a little milk and a little bit of heat. Okay, so that's all the little disclaimers about this very yummy, yummy, yummy cake. Right now I'm going to go on and eat it, but before I do, I want to thank you all for joining me in this Boozin' Food Kitchen, where you know it always going to keep it boozing, and keep watching for the videos on Wednesdays and Saturdays. I appreciate you guys so very much. Right now, you know what I'm about to appreciate, this Boozin'-licious cake right here. You know, I eat with my hands sometimes, because this cake is so moist, it just holds together just like that. That cream cheese, that whiskey, okay?